The technology and the impact is inevitable. The question is now, how are we going to react to this as societies? And here's something to think about, right? So we're talking about the benefits of all these AI agents. So the internet effectively is going to have billions, if not trillions, of these things running around.
Yep. Yep.
So the internet, instead of, 99% human, is going to be like 1% human activity, and the rest is going to be AI. So I'm not worried about your agents, and you're not worried about mine, but I'm worried about agents maybe from
Bad
China,
actors.
Russia,
Yep.
North Korea, other nations.
Yeah, me too.
And they're going to try to infiltrate everything. They're going to find a weakness in everything and try to capitalize on that. So the question is then, how do we constrain AI?
Yeah, big
Now,
question.
in the real world, how do we constrain people?
Police, military.
We have police, we have walls, we have barriers, right? We have military forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, etc. That's how we constrain. We physically constrain people. We also make it, if they attack us, they know that they're going to get attacked back. There's going to be a response, and they know that they may pay with their life if they do that.
Mm.
So how do you take that concept and apply that to cyberspace?
Yep.
Well, the good news is that the proof of work protocol in Bitcoin is exactly that. We can actually apply Bitcoin as a wrapper around everything. It becomes a digital wall around everything in cyberspace. The way to think about this is, if I send you an email right now, it costs me basically nothing.
Yeah.
You don't charge me to receive the email. But if you wanted to protect your email system from AI agents sending you a million emails tomorrow, the effective way to do it would be to charge each agent to send an email to you. Wouldn't have to be much.
Yep.
But
1 cent.
or less. They wouldn't be able to send out a billion emails anymore because it would become pretty expensive.
Yep.
So you could apply this essentially then with every sort of interaction on, within the internet, with computer systems, accessing different computer systems, and so on. But certainly the spam example, I think, is one that people intuitively understand.
Yeah.
There are some people out there that are warning that in very short order, that our email systems and our phones will be inundated with emails and unwanted calls, and we won't be able to stop it.
Yep.
Your phone would just constantly ring and ring and ring, and there's nothing you can do to stop it.
Yep. Mm.
Yeah, because AI will figure out a way around all the different security features that we've hard-coded in code,
Yep.
in logic. And the only way to beat that is to not hard-code it with code and logic, is to actually use a physical way to stop it. And that's exactly what Bitcoin is.
Paywall, basically. So if I
The
want to
paywall.
send you an email, I have to pay half a cent to send an email to Cern, which for us would be no big deal, right? But if
Yeah.
you're sending out a billion, which these people are doing, sending out billion spam emails, that becomes a inhibitor to doing that. And didn't they test that on X a while back? Did that
So
work? I think they.
yeah, I'm sure. Well, I think there's all kinds of different things that are being tested. Ultimately, I think that the best method for this, and this is kind of why I see Bitcoin and AI is kind of going hand in hand,
Yeah.
is that ultimately you want this decentralized system. You don't really want it in the hands of any one party,
No.
because that party could be compromised, or they could use it for some kind of nefarious intent. Right? We've all seen, for example, Google.
Yeah.
Right? People trust Google to various degrees, and in many
Not much.
cases, right? And Google has done things in the past that maybe haven't been so user-friendly.
No.
And they've justified it with whatever justification they have. But the whole idea is, let's take that kind of authority away from a central power,
Amen.
whether it be Google or Microsoft or any government, and put it in the hands of a decentralized system that still you have to do the work and pay the money, use the energy and the compute to prove that you are legitimate. And so it is one way to constrain AI, and I think this is a problem that's only going to increase, and very quickly.
Yep.
So we could
Within weeks,
within weeks.
within weeks, like OpenClaw has really opened up a Pandora's box
Yeah,
of absolutely amazing, and we've seen this incredible adoption. If you don't know what OpenClaw is, go and Google it. But now I have agents out there doing things on my behalf, and there are going to be, well, there are already billions of these out there, good, bad, and otherwise.
yeah,
And so this is really, and to the Google thing. Um, like my company has been penalized by Google because I'm a supplement company, right? I'm in the health optimization space. A lot of the big, this is my conspiracy theory, so take it for what it is. But Google, there's a big stakeholders in pharmaceutical, right? So
yeah,
they penalize supplement company brands from being able to advertise on their platform. Like the fact
sure.
that I have a book that talks about aneurysms, like my mum's story, cancer, all of that sort of stuff, not a shit show in hell of advertising on the Google Ads network, which
Yeah,
penalizes my company massively just from having
yes,
my book, let alone the blogs, let alone the podcasts. And I've tried over and over again to get approval for my supplements. But because of the content and because I'm a controversial figure, if you like, and the fact that I talk about things openly, straight out, like nothing bad, I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm
yeah,
just talking. Like if you have the word cancer, if you have the word, like I sell lipospheric vitamin C, which everybody knows you can get on your local chemist corner, right? You cannot use the word lipospheric. It's a medical term. You get banned.
mm, mm,
That's the sort of example where centralized authority is acting in
yeah.
their own interests, not in the interests of the public.
That's right. And somebody may, give them the benefit of the doubt. Somebody may think that they're helping people and saving people from being,
Mm,
scammed or whatever, but the reality is different than that,
yep,
right?
very.
And this is where AI, I think, also comes in and becomes very useful, is AI can decide on the merits of each case. AI
Mhm.
can read every single blog and everything that you've put out and say, is this person a trustworthy person? Is what they're saying, does it, there's was a way to evaluate that. Whereas right now, you're just getting kind of scooped up by an algorithm because of
An
certain,
algorithm picking up a word, blocking
yeah,
you, and you don't
yeah,
know. They don't tell you lipospheric is the
no,
word.
yeah,
They just ban you, and there
yeah,
goes your income for the month.
that's
Okay.
right.
And this is really, really hard on health companies, on health in the natural health space. And
Yeah,
this is not just in the, Google Ads space, but in other areas as well, get the same sort of problem.
yeah,
So these are systemic big problems that we're dealing with, and AI is going to, I mean, AI helped me work through the whole thing, and I dismantled my whole website trying to get approval. Even AI gave up, you know,
yeah,
even though it said, look, you're not going to get through. Give
right.
up, which is pretty sad. But it's the AI agents, if we get millions and billions of these things out in the world doing these economic good things, and then nefarious actors from other state governments or whatever, how does Bitcoin act like a defense mechanism? Like Jason Lowery, who wrote the Softwar book, I think it was called. He's a
Yes.
major in the military, and who was told to go and study Bitcoin as a defense weapon, if you like, or a protection.
hmm
Tell us a little bit about his thesis and how it applies in this situation with AI.
Yeah, this could take up an entire podcast on this
Yeah.
topic, but just the general structure of it is, well, the story he tells, and this is a kind of interesting one, is, I'm just taking a slight diversion here before I answer your question.
Yep.
The Chinese developed this magical black powder. It had kind of some flash properties to it, and it was developed in the Chinese medical community. And for years, it would sit in a glass on a shelf, and they would try and experiment with it, and didn't have much use in surgery or other things, right? But eventually along comes, I guess, some Chinese engineers, and they discovered basically what these Chinese this medical community had invented was gunpowder.
Yeah. Yeah.
They thought it was medicine because the medical people, discovered it, invented it, or whatever.
Yeah.
But as we know now, gunpowder is used in fireworks and weapons and so on. And of course, the Chinese were pushing all that. Bitcoin suffers from the same problem. Because Bitcoin has the word coin in its name,
Mm.
everybody thinks that Bitcoin is
It's
money.
monetary, yeah.
Okay. But like gunpowder, what Bitcoin really is at its core, at the root of what Bitcoin is, it's essentially a digital security technology. You can't mine Bitcoin. You can't get Bitcoin unless you do the work, unless proof of work. You actually put the computer system and the power in place, and you actually engage in a global race every 10 minutes to guess a massive number, 256 digits long.
Wow.
Unless you have those computer systems guessing and getting the right one every 10 minutes, you don't get any Bitcoin. So this is a way to decentralize control. In this case, it's a ledger, right? Who gets to put the next transaction on the ledger? Now, ledgers can be used for all kinds of things.
Mm.
Ledgers obviously are great for money. Who owns what? But Bitcoin only makes for great money because it is so secure,
Mm.
because it's decentralized, because no one controls it. That's why Bitcoin is great as a form of, digital gold or a store of value. But that's not what Bitcoin truly is at its core. It's a cyber security system.
Mhm. Mhm.
Ultimately, is what it is. It's a protocol. Just like we have other protocols on the internet for email and for websites, right? HTTPS. Those are different protocols. This is a security protocol that really is just sitting there waiting for the world to adopt it as a security protocol. And everybody has run off in this direction saying it's money, it needs to replace the banking system and all this stuff. Well, maybe, but you're trying to use gunpowder now for something else, right? And in the test of time, maybe Bitcoin does become our form of money, or at least the base layer of money. I don't know, but I'm pretty confident that we can use it as a security technology.
Yeah.
And we need it very badly in this age of AI agents. We need a way to constrain AI physically because we're not going to do it with computer code because the AI is going to find a way through all of our computer code and hack it. We're not going to
They
stop.
can't hack Bitcoin.
Can't
It's
hack Bitcoin.
yeah.
Yeah,
The cryptography behind it is beyond.
yeah,
And people are worried about quantum cracking Bitcoin, which to me is like for a start 10, 15 years off. So, yeah, let's talk about it, but it's not an imminent threat now. And I think
right.
that's been weighing on Bitcoin's value, if you like. But that's actually what's more important is that these agents that are now, the AI that we have now, is going to crack our banking system, our medical records, our emails in the next few weeks,
Yeah.
not 10 years away. And
If
that's
it's
a
not already been,
much bigger problem right now. And the
yeah.
only thing that can protect us is Bitcoin.
Ultimately, I think that's the case at
Yeah.
scale across the internet and between countries because the US, for example, could put in a system that's controlled by one company or a consortium of companies. Okay, but other countries of the world won't be happy with that. Why would you let
Yeah.
Microsoft control all of your data? You don't
Yeah.
really want them to.
No.
So I think eventually, and I think people have done this, they've asked AI what it would prefer. And
Yeah.
every time that they've done that, AI said, well, Bitcoin makes
Malt's
sense.
book. Malt book,
Right, here it
social
is.
media for
Yeah,
agents has come up with unanimously that Bitcoin is the thing they want to use and transact with. And
that's right.
yeah, which is funny. Yeah.
And the other reason is that, Bitcoin's never closed, 24/7 global market, it's decentralized. There's all the things I think that you would design in a global marketplace is encapsulated in the Bitcoin network.
So this is a massive another use case for Bitcoin
It's
and under
it's
bull
bigger than
bullish.
Bitcoin as money. It's more
Yeah,
valuable than that.
and
Yeah.
nobody's talking about it except
No.
you. And it's extremely bullish for the future of Bitcoin, not only from the the monetary side of it and the store of value and against debasement and stuff. Actually, I've got a curly one for you, which yeah, I've heard you talk about a little bit, but if we have all this technology, and this is a massive, like I've had Jeff Booth on, and it's a massive deflationary force. We've never experienced deflation or a disinflationary force. Like we've always had inflation, and we've always moaned about the price of our groceries going up and the price of everything going up, right?
Yeah.
when we get to this point, which we're sort of seeing, like in the last few weeks, AI agents coming on, like OpenClaw has been the catalyst for billions and billions and billions of dollars to be wiped out of the stock market overnight because whole industry sectors in the consulting and legal and
Hmm.
like Salesforce, all of these software as a service companies have lost value overnight because people are realizing we don't need them anymore. Like
Yes.
so they've experienced massive drops in their market valuations, and this is happened at a speed much faster than what I thought that would happen, which is also scary because the markets are going to shake from this. Like whole
Hmm.
industries are going to be deleted.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of Geordie Visser's work, who's a macro analyst, brilliant man. He's talking about, people are going, oh, SaaS is gonna, software as a service, it's gonna bounce, it's time to get in, it's hit the floor, and he's going, SaaS is cooked.
It's gone.
It's gone, unless you're
Yeah.
something like Palantir that is slightly different or something. But most of these SaaS
Hmm.
companies are absolutely toast. And unless you work all day in AI like I do, and you see the day by day changes that are happening on it, you won't understand that. And yes, Salesforce is not going to go under tomorrow because the big, incumbents that are, big companies that are using it, but the little companies that are coming in behind, they're not going to use Salesforce. They're going to make their own.
Yeah, and it's not so much a question in my mind as to whether one company or industry goes under. Salesforce may be in place for years and years and years, but it's where is the new value created,
Yeah, it's going to
right? And
stagnate.
that's where the stock market will flow to.
Yeah.
Um, and these companies may not go bankrupt for 20 years, but the stock market is not going to place a great value on them anymore because that's not where the growth opportunity is. But to your earlier question about, deflation and the concern about
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
we actually in our lifetimes have all lived through massive deflation. And
True.
again,
And the
it's this
electronics.
chart.
Yep. Yep.
We lived through this. We saw the iPhone and other smartphones come into being and get rid of the pile of stuff you see there on that left side and more. That was massive deflationary. How bad was that, Lisa? Was that a terrible experience?
No, it was great because we could get cheaper things, like
Yeah,
the iPhone became your one thing that you had. And for us, it was, as a consumer, great.
yeah. I think there's this narrative out there that I'm not sure who's sort of created or behind it, but oh, we need a little bit of inflation. We can't have deflation. People will stop spending. I think it's BS. I'm calling BS on that. I think that we
Uh-huh.
have all lived through this. We've all benefited from this.
Hmm.
Now, if we do this at scale with every other industry, we're all collectively going to be far better off. And this is what AI will allow to do and humanoid robots, autonomous vehicles. It's going to dematerialize a whole massive swaths of our economy. But it's going to make us so much better off
There
because
will
all
be
these
there will
things
be
have,
victims still, though, like the companies that
well,
are those things.
yeah, and there always has been victims throughout history. Think
Yeah.
about the looms and so on, right? To put all the
Mhm.
weavers out of business. Think
Mhm.
about the transition from farms to factories and all the farmers that went out of business. But society is better off for all those changes.
Yeah.
Think about all the women that used to be switchboard operators. In the United States, I think there was something like 500,000 of them. They were all
Wow.
put out of work.
Yeah.
Right. And then they all became secretaries or whatever. And that's all gone now with the internet and so on. So this is the constant state of things. Like this is nothing new. Societies have been dealing with these technology changes throughout millennium,
Just not this
right?
fast.
Just not this fast. But we're up to the task. We can handle it. We handled this one with smartphones perfectly fine. I'm not upset that I don't get to use a fax machine anymore.
No.
Right? I'm not upset that I have to make a phone call from a device that's attached to a wall. I love being able to make a phone call wherever I am, anywhere in the world.
Yep.
And thanks to Starlink, we can. I love the fact that I don't have to go outside to get my newspaper and read what the news is, and I can read it now in real time. Like I'm not bemoaning any of these things. Now, the companies that made the newspapers, okay, they're not doing so well. But you know what? The rest of us are all better off. And so as long as society is moving forward, we should be cheering this on.
And
And the
if you're one of those
deflationary,
companies, you're going to have to just adapt real quick.
you have to adapt real quick.
Don't be Kodak.
Yeah. And I actually did a post about this recently was in the United States, we used to have, well, probably around the world, we used to have people that would cut ice before refrigeration. The guy that in the United States, the guy that decided that ice was good, he said, well, I'm going to sell ice to the Caribbean. And he figured out a way to ship ice, I think, from Boston down to the Caribbean. It was like at that time a 2 week or 3 week journey. Half of the ice had melted by the time he got there. And then he showed up on the shores. And I think his brother, who was in charge of like creating demand for ice, basically failed. And all the rest of the ice basically melted on the hot sand, right? But he had this idea of going to bartenders and saying, I'll give you your ice for free, and I want you to do a test. I want you to give people a drink with no ice and a drink with ice. And very quickly, he created a demand for ice and drinks because, it's so much better, so much
Yeah.
more refreshing.
Mm-mm.
And he created this massive market for himself, and he created this massive monopoly. He was eventually shipping ice all around the world, to Australia, to India. He had this massive business. But then he was disrupted by refrigeration.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
initially he said, well, refrigeration, that's fake ice. That's not God created ice. This is unnatural ice. And that was a narrative that went around for a long time where people felt that fake ice was bad for them. Well, then what happened was people were getting sick from the natural ice from these lakes, right? And so eventually the idea of fake ice became like clean ice and healthy ice. And this guy was eventually put out of business.
wow. It's a
And
crazy
so
story.
it's it's just a story as a reminder, like one very narrow thing, and how, of course, refrigeration has completely changed the world and air conditioning and things like that, right? Like think of the places now that people live and the things that we can do because of that. And to your point earlier, now with AI, we're sort of creating these opportunities in every spot all at once.
Yep.
But this is just something that we as humanity have gone through time and time again. Most of these changes, though, kind of happen on a slow scale, throughout maybe a couple of generations.
Hmm.
I suppose there are people alive today that still remember ice cutters, people that brought ice to their houses. Probably not many left, right? And there's a few of us today that might remember, VHS and DVDs and that kind of thing, and we're
Heck
a
yeah.
dying breed. And it's just a natural evolution of everything that we've gone through. But this deflationary force of all this is really what drives us forward. If I can move about the city or the country for less money, then I can take the savings and I can invest it in other things or spend money on other things. And that allows us, I think, to advance in all these different areas. Um, and
And so
AI,
our standard of living for I mean, at the moment we've got this, K-shaped economy. We've got very much, the asset owners, the ones who have the shares and all of that, doing really well. S&P's all-time highs, close to blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
And you've got the worker their wages are debasing and the inflation has eaten away at all their savings that they've put in the bank. And, so you've got this massive unrest, of people at the top, the bottom 50%, if you like, which is most of us. There's a lot of people in that wage earner class that are not keeping up with the way things are going. Is this going to be positive for the K-shaped economy? Like we'll have a better standard of living for those in the bottom 50%? Or is it only going to benefit the rich that are already rich and getting richer and centralizing that money that's coming? Like the iPhone took away from all those hundreds of industries and then
yeah.
basically went to Apple or a couple of other companies. But the app developers maybe, but you know what I mean? Like it did centralize a lot of the wealth upwards. Are we going to get more of that through this?
If if we have the ability to double, triple, quadruple, 10x GDPs, there should be more than enough for everybody. There should be enough for the investors to make a ton of money, but then there should be enough for the people that are being left behind, and not only to live like a subsistence living, but live at a great level and have everything that they need. In theory, there should be enough. Now, in reality, are we going to design systems, political systems, taxation systems that work for everybody? That remains to be seen. This is I think is the biggest challenge of all. Is in my mind the technology and the impact is inevitable. The question is now, how are we going to react to this as societies?
Mm.
How is the country, for example, of New Zealand, going to react to the fact that AI and robotic labor is coming to your shores? Do you put up walls and stop it and try to keep it out and protect your way of life for a period of time? Right? For example, how many islands in the world now don't have any outside people? I think there's one that I'm aware of in the Indian Ocean where they don't allow people to go visit, and those
Well,
people live the way
so,
they've lived, right? So that
mm.
doesn't seem like a good strategy long term,
No, not for most of us, no.
right? And so the question then is, how does the country, let's say I'm using New Zealand as an example, figure out how to develop and embrace the technology and at the same time make sure the people that are most impacted by it are the ones that can still live, a comfortable life.
Yeah, and if we don't, then that's when the wars happen and the revolutions and the
Yeah,
riots and the unhappiness and the breakdown of fabric of society. So it's in the interest of the rich people to make sure that some of this gets down to the, the bottom half of the economy.
ultimately it is. Yes.
But will they? I mean, we're seeing, a bigger diversion currently, and we have been for the last, decade, where, you're getting extraordinarily rich people at the top, and then a lot that are really living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to pay for their kids' education and put clothes on their back. And then you've got also things like, we're in India that had real poverty that are now crawling out of that poverty, coming into much
Yeah.
more affluence over as a general society. Still poverty there, obviously, but it's the overall standard of living is rising. So you just trying to work out, is this going to be really bad or is this going to be really good? And the other part of that, which is a little bit outside the wheelhouse, but we've seen like the globalization and the supply chain networks that have been set up over decades crumbling. Like the
Yeah.
infrastructure, I listened to a guy called Jeff Curry, was his name. I think it was his name. Um, and he is an expert in mining and commodities and that whole sector. And he's saying all of us that are in this technology world that are, oh, we're going to get data centers, we're going to get this, and we're going to get robots, and you've got no idea
Yeah.
how long it takes to make a copper mine, how long it takes to get these rare earths going, and the
Yes.
difficulty of the pollution, the decades to build these things. And he gave some examples, like he had a mine that was in some, I don't know, Guatemala or somewhere, and it got flooded in an earthquake. And he had to get these big pumps. Like we're not talking like little pumps, we're talking like the size of the Statue of Liberty type of pumps.
Hmm.
And he was all over the world trying to get these pumps to save because they were losing $10 million a day or something ridiculous. And he couldn't, he went to Germany, they said 7 years, 5 to 7 years. And he's like, this can't be for real. Like,
Yeah.
we need it now. We need it yesterday. Went to
Wow.
China, finally went to China. They did it in 30 days.
Yeah.
They got these pumps to them, and the Chinese wanted the copper, right, that they were producing. So they made sure that they
Hmm.
got them in 30 days, but they had the ability to do that.
Yeah.
And so you're getting this, he really pointed out that you might be thinking you're getting all these data centers and you might be thinking that, AI and GPUs are going to be made, but I'm telling you now, as a person who was an expert of the mining industry, that this is not happening. And this is going to take
Yes.
a lot longer than what most people are thinking. And he gave the analogy of, we all think that bacon comes out of the fridge, but it doesn't.
Right.
A pig has to be grown, it has to be slaughtered. It's a messy, horrible job, and
Right.
before you get the bacon in the fridge. And it's the same thing with these raw. It's dirty, environmentally unfriendly, all of these things for it to actually come to fruition. And I was like, wow,
Yeah.
I was unaware.
So a couple of important points there, right? Just to touch on that one, the given that there might be constraints on making 10 million, 100
Yeah,
million, a billion robots,
Yeah.
there's value in getting access to them early,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Whether you're set yourselves up to make them, right, or you set yourselves up to receive them.
Yeah.
And you can imagine the demand that's going to be to get the first 100 million, right?
Yeah. And if you don't,
And I've actually said that for a company, like, and I've used the example of, let's say, Walmart versus Target here in the
yeah.
US.
Yeah.
If Walmart gets them and Target does not, then Walmart's going to have such a competitive advantage versus Target that Target could go out of business, for
Yeah.
example, or FedEx versus UPS, or whatever examples you want to use, um, Amazon versus Walmart, or whatever it is. So that's one part of it. But yes, there's going to be some constraints. A person like Elon, I think, is able to move heaven and earth faster than most people.
Yeah. Totally.
And it's also particularly nice for him that he's got his own rocket company.
Yeah.
If the data centers on Earth become a problem, then he's just like, well, we'll put them in space. And by the way, that's going to be cheaper,
Yeah. Amazing.
which no one was talking about this time last year, right? To your earlier point about, sort of not leaving people behind and income and so on. Um, Elon Musk has talked about that the value of money over time becomes less and less important, right? If you drive down the cost of everything and everybody's living at a level that, super wealthy people live at today, right? They have everything that they could need, right? All the food, all the consumer products that you want, 10 TVs because they're super cheap. Everybody's living space is beautiful. Then the differences between somebody having $1 trillion and somebody not having anything matters less because of the way you live is pretty similar.
Mhm.
Like, look at Elon Musk, for example, right? Here's a guy that's knocking on the door of $1 trillion.
Mm.
Now, he's one of the very rare, multi-billionaires that's not out there buying super yachts. I think most of the other
No.
billionaires have super yachts. Elon
Yeah.
doesn't.
No.
For a
Doesn't
while, he
care.
didn't even own a house, right? So I think that's an example of over time, I think it's going to become less and less important about how much wealth you accumulate. And Elon's even gone as far as saying that people don't need to worry about saving for retirement.
Mm. Probably a little bit
Now,
of
as a
it.
financial advisor, I'm not comfortable making that statement today,
No. No.
right? But I see where he's coming from. I understand the reasoning behind it. I just wouldn't be recommending that to the world at large at this point,
Yeah. It's too early.
right? Let's not all live like it's 1999 right now. Let's keep saving some
It's
money just in
sensible
case.
in case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, some of this I think is going to turn sort of traditional notions on its head. If we are creating this abundance, then saving for the future becomes less important from a capital perspective. And I think that the K-shape, the differences between the way people live, I think will narrow over time.
Yeah.
Now, it could go the other way if, governments don't structure things in terms of encouraging the growth and at the same time making sure that people that are left behind are taken care of. And
Yeah.
that's a really fine balance because in the United States, you couldn't have more different viewpoints between the two parties.
Yeah.
So it's going to
On
be
how to
interesting to
do
see
it.
how we navigate that.
And this is we're seeing a rise of socialism. Like, we had, Trump get voted in the last cycle. He's not doing so well in the polls now. We're seeing, Mamdani is the, mayor of New York, the capital
Yeah.
of, of capitalism, who's
Yeah.
now got a socialist mayor. You've seen what's happened in California. There's, there seems to be a rise in socialism around the world, and you can see why, because of the bottom percentage being left behind. But I don't. I mean, I'm definitely a capitalist at heart. I don't think that that's the answer. Socialism, and the dangers of it, and especially when you have universal basic or high income or whatever is communism, socialism, more centralized control over our lives. That frightens the heck out of me.
Yeah.
And is that
Yeah.
going to happen if we get, the government's having to pay us? I mean, they were, the governments do pay us, at least in New Zealand and places, pensions and, but it's a very low, it's a very low subsistence. You're struggling to survive type of level. So what's going to happen, from a political point of view, and therefore control over our lives point of view, if the government is giving us our money and telling us what we can do and cannot do? Is it going
Well,
to erode our freedoms?
the easiest way to do it, Lisa, is just to make it freely available. So kind of like water today.
Hmm.
Water basically, I mean, this is not entirely true, but for the most part, water is too cheap to meter.
Well, not in
Now,
New
I
Zealand.
do have a water bill. I pay for
Yeah,
water. It's not like free, but there's water
yeah,
fountains all over the place, right? There's public
yeah.
water fountains. You can get as much water as you want, basically for nothing if you want
Or
to.
air and sunshine, free, you know.
Right. Right. Those are public goods. Now, imagine a world of abundance where more and more things are considered to be a public good. So
Yeah,
just food in general. So instead of giving people money to go to the grocery store, right, and the government saying, well, Lisa, you're not eating healthy enough. We're not going to give you as much this month,
yeah, exactly.
right? And having that kind of thing,
Just
you
horrific.
basically just take the grocery store and you say, take what you want. Right. Now, initially there might be, all kinds of hoarding and so on, but eventually people will settle down and just take what they need. Right. That's kind of long term, the kind of the way I foresee it happening in terms of just making more and more things freely available.
Without that, the control of we're
Yeah.
giving you the money, you're going to jump through hoops to get it, and you're going to, if you don't, you're
Yeah.
cut out of society if you don't follow the rule books, which is the danger. When we saw it
Yeah.
during COVID, we saw the dangers of that. If you don't do this, what we're telling you is the right thing to do, certain things, you're going to be cut out of society. We saw that happen to us, happen to me.
Yeah.
So
Now
it's,
I think there's
that's
a progression
frightening.
though of what that happens there. That doesn't happen overnight. You don't just say everything in the grocery store now is free and go at
No,
it.
yeah,
All the shelves will be bare instantly.
2 seconds.
But over time, as you get an abundance of different things, then you can do that.
Mm.
As the robotic workforce is just making an unlimited supply of everything. You can imagine going to, a furniture store and basically saying, well, these are all made by the humanoid robots. Take what you want. If you need a new couch, here it is, right? And by the way, these would be like beautifully, expertly crafted couches, not some cheap stuff, right? And so the furniture that would be made would be high quality, long lasting furniture, not something that's going to fall apart in a couple of weeks. Right.
Deliberately.
That's also what
Mm.
we're talking about. It's not
Mm.
just mass producing a bunch of garbage. It's locally producing it, high quality, well crafted. You may even be able to ask for customization, right? I want a couch with this, that, and the other thing, and the robot, does it for you. So all that kind of stuff becomes possible, and I think the notion of the importance of money then becomes less and less when you have abundance.
Yeah,
Because right now we have an abundance pretty much of water. And if you want to, you can get water basically for free or very, very cheaply.
yeah,
And so I think
yeah,
for me, that's the mental model for increasingly lots of other things that become abundant.
yeah. If everything goes in the right direction politically, which is the big question that neither you or I can probably answer that one, whether the powers that be, um, do that. But Cern, absolutely fantastic conversation today. We've gone everywhere. Is there anything we missed? Yeah, one more question. Bitcoin not doing so well lately. We're in a
Yeah.
crypto winter really, which surprised a lot of us. I think we've probably been in a crypto winter for longer than we thought. But the ETFs and things and the institutional adoption probably held us up because we'd certainly been in a winter in regards to altcoins and things like that. But short term, it's not looking so great, and we're not following gold, and we're not following that normal progression, even the liquidity stuff. Or is this the end of Bitcoin? Or is this is this the start of Bitcoin? And what's your take on it, on where we're
Yeah.
at and why it's not following the normal correlations?
Well, I think I'll echo some of the sentiments I've heard Michael Saylor say recently. He said, it's not that been that many days since we had a high in Bitcoin. I think it was last October.
Yeah, yeah,
So for us to complain that Bitcoin's not doing so well, is interesting, right? It's only been a short period of time. Now,
Yeah,
of
we have
course,
a recency bias.
we're
Yeah.
looking at relative to gold, and we're saying, well, how come it's not keeping track with gold? That's a fair point. No one said that it was going to be pegged to gold. So I'm not worried that it's not tracking gold at a certain point in time. I think there are factors driving the gold market
Yeah,
that aren't present
absolutely.
in Bitcoin,
Mm,
and I think
mm.
that's fine. So none of this really worries me. Again, I'm comforted by the fact I think that we need a security technology to constrain AI, and here it is waiting to be discovered.
Yeah.
It's in plain sight, it's hiding in plain sight. So for me, this actually speaks to opportunity rather than risk. I'm not worried about Bitcoin going to zero. I think it's a remarkable technology that people don't fully appreciate yet.
Mhm.
It's great as money and a store of value, but it's even better as a security technology. And I think eventually people are going to come around to this notion and realize that we badly need it in this world that we're heading into, that we're
That's
accelerating into.
hugely
Yeah,
bullish. Yeah.
yeah.
And all the other reasons for it, because
And all the other reasons.
because you said, I've heard you say that whether, because one of the arguments, if we're heading into a deflationary time, then do we need Bitcoin? Because it's always been about debasement. Like everyone can see that the governments are debasing our fiat currencies, and therefore we need a store of value that isn't going to be debased, and there's only 21 million, et cetera, et cetera. But now, if we are heading into a world of deflation, do we need Bitcoin from a monetary standpoint?
So two parts to that question. The first is, I think as long as we have fiat currency of any kind, that is not going to be deflating. We're always going to be printing more and more money. And in fact,
Yeah,
if we head
right.
into a world where governments just give money to people to live, then they're going to be printing even more and more money. So from a monetary standpoint, you want to be in the currency, so to speak, that is not, printing itself into oblivion, right? Also, I would say again, separating Bitcoin into the two elements, right? The monetary side. So let's say even if you were worried about the monetary side and said, okay, yeah, we're heading into this deflationary world, we don't need Bitcoin anymore as money, fine, I'll give you that. But we need Bitcoin as a security technology.
Hmm.
And that actually, by the way, in my view, is way more valuable than Bitcoin as money
Wow, that big a deal.
because we're going to have trillions of AI agents roaming around the internet. How are we going to stop them? We're not going to do it with more code and passwords, right? It's going to hack all that. You
Within
have
months.
to do it with a way that cannot be hacked.
Yeah, yeah,
And ideally with some physical energy involved so that, the agents basically prove to you that they've done the work and that they can access the system. To me, that's so obvious at this point. And I'm just sort of waiting, I think, for the rest of the world to sort of come around to this idea. Again, this is not my idea. This is Jason Lowery's.
yeah,
But it's one that's really resonated with me, and it kind of grounds me in this time when Bitcoin has been so weak.
yeah,
It's just a
yeah.
matter of
It's a
time.
good accumulation time, basically.
Yeah. Michael Saylor recently said that when electricity was invented, it took 30 years for people to really come around to the idea of what it can be used for,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's not like these technologies are invented and people suddenly like, aha, we're going to do this. We're going to power the world with this new thing. It took a while to figure it out. Same thing with Apple and the iPhone. I think according to Saylor, 7 years after the iPhone came out, Apple was trading at something like 10 times earnings, a ridiculously low valuation.
mm-mm.
And it took a while for people to understand the significance of the iPhone, right? Early on, the early versions of the iPhone, weren't really that great. They were cool looking, but couldn't do much.
Yeah,
Didn't have the App Store and didn't have all the things we have now. And so I think it just takes time for people to figure out what some of these new technologies can be used for.
yeah, and to build the infrastructure around them, the lightning
Yep.
networks, the whatever the apps that
Yep.
to build on these things that too. And we know that the banking sector is not going to be able to handle agents and AI and the world that we're coming into.
Right.
It closed for more than half of the time. For starters, it's Monday to Friday. It's not at the speed of light.
Yeah.
It's all of these limitations. So we've got to find a system, and the agents themselves who have their own social network and talk to each other. By the way. Go to Maltbook and have a look. It's quite hilarious. Scary,
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yep.
Star Trek, but they have decided that Bitcoin is the thing, apparently, So I think, and MicroStrategy, that's been hammered more than Bitcoin, even like down 70
Hmm.
odd percent from their highs. And people are calling for, like MicroStrategy is going to go under and stuff. And, I'm an investor in MicroStrategy. I'm not particularly worried. I'm worried from the fact that maybe their premiums might not get back to where they were. But the company itself safe, like apart from the convertible debt that they have, which they will get rid of over the next few years, and with their preferreds coming, the STRC and all of those other STRs and but specifically STRC, that I mean, the fundamentals are very good. I mean, Bitcoin would have to
Yeah.
go to horrifically low levels and stay there for 5 years for them to be in financial trouble. We're not going to see that happen. Very unlikely.
The the interesting thing about MicroStrategy, or strategy as it's now called, um, is if you think about it now, if you think of Bitcoin as a digital security technology, then strategy becomes the world's largest digital security company.
Wow, I never thought of that one. We always thought the
Right. So this is
banks.
a whole different value proposition than just what they're doing with the preferreds, which I, by the way,
Mhm.
think is amazing and an incredible
Yeah,
product.
yeah,
But that, you talk about the MNAV, or the premium on the company's value versus its Bitcoin holdings.
yep.
If Bitcoin takes hold as a security technology, we might see premiums on that we've never seen before.
Wow, yeah.
Now, it's not investment advice, but just it's interesting if you look at things through this different lens.
Hmm.
Um, Bitcoin as a security technology, it changes what you think about all kinds of different things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so this is a really another massive big use case that no one has been talking about. So we've got to credit that one to Jason Lowery and Cern
Yeah.
Basher for getting it out there. Cern Basher as
Well,
well.
Jason, I'm just sort of parroting what he's saying.
Yeah, but
Jason
you're
deserves
actually
all the credit.
bringing it, to a point where, like where from an economic standpoint, you're actually the one that's sort of
Yeah.
recognized this with the agents that are happening. So no, partly you. Very last question. Um, Tesla, people value it in all sorts of ways, and they value all these countries, companies on their price to earnings ratio, their
Mhm.
earnings this quarter. And you had a brilliant analogy that, like Elon builds companies, build factories, and it takes years for these things to come online. He does difficult things like, physical things like EVs that nobody really wanted to do, and then he had to build out the whole vertical supply chain for all the bits and pieces that are required. That takes a long time. And then Wall Street just looks at the monthly or the quarterly, earnings report. No, you didn't hit the earnings. I mean, even when I was researching for today, I'm like, the AI is like, oh, Tesla's car sales are down this quarter, and I'm like, yeah. Well, did you
Yeah.
did you mention that you're like they're changing to Optimus robot and what that's going to go from 5 billion to 75 billion? Maybe didn't pick that one up, right? Like it's we're valuing companies wrong, and you had a really good analogy of a kid. If you're a parent, give us that little take. Thought that
Yeah,
was
I'll expand on this a little bit. Let's say that as a child you have a job that you've created a lemonade stand, right? You're a very
yeah.
successful lemonade stand. You did this as a little kid, and you did it through your teenage years, okay? And this lemonade stand has made more and more money every year because your lemonade is amazing. Everybody from around the city comes to your stand because you've got the secret recipe. Okay. But off you go to college. Okay. And you might still have the lemonade stand going, part-time. So you've still got revenue from the lemonade stand. Okay. And you're known as like the lemonade stand guy. But you're going to college and you're studying it to become a surgeon. Okay. So it's like valuing that kid through college as though he's just going to be a lemonade seller for his whole life. Right. And the
Yeah.
PE on the kid, if you value that, for his future revenue as a surgeon, the PE would be much higher.
Yeah.
But the market is looking at that kid because that's all he's ever done is sell lemonade.
Yeah. That's a good
Right.
one.
And this is the kind of transition that Tesla is going through as an automobile company, Lemonade, into an AI and robotics company, the surgeon. The market is not fully appreciating the economics of the AI and the robotics business. It's appreciating it to some degree that the PE on the company is very high. But when I do a present value calculation based on what I think are very conservative assumptions over the long term, I get a valuation today that's way higher than where the stock price is.
Wow.
Again, not investment advice, do your own work, but the market is only allowing itself to look out a little bit. It's like that kid in the college going, becoming a surgeon. It's looking at what his income might be for the first couple of years out of college and no more, not what it could be over the course of a 30, 40-year career.
Yeah.
And the same thing I think is with Tesla is that it's starting to value the company as more of an AI company and the robotaxi business in particular. I don't think the valuation for the humanoid robot business, Optimus, is really part of the company's valuation currently. There are no analysts really on Wall Street that I've seen that have a serious model for that. They're only just now incorporating the robotaxi business.
Mm.
So there's an interesting opportunity here as this company remakes itself from an automobile company
Get in now.
into something entirely different.
Yeah. Get in at the ground floor before
Yeah.
other people work this out is my sort of take on it. Not
And, and,
financial
and
advice.
it's not just replacing a one's profit stream with another. It's a recurring profit stream on the AI business, whereas the car business it's like a one-time sale.
Yep.
And then the margin on the recurring profit is that much higher. The
Yep.
margins on the car business are quite low. So you've kind of 50x'd dollar for dollar the profit stream or something like that, right? It's a material change in the business model of the company.
The structure and then
Yep.
the other industries, the deliveries, people being able to have robotaxis as businesses. There's all these other sort of knock-on effects that nobody's valuing at all really now, I don't think.
Yeah.
So it's just got a massive change. So yeah, it's probably way undervalued if you discounted that back down to now. And a lot of things are still, like XAI and SpaceX, merged, the biggest merger in history. Do you think the SpaceX and Tesla are going to merge, or do you think it's a good thing if they do merge, or are they into? I mean, I think with the robotaxis about to ramp, probably not a good idea to be doing that right now because the world should be focused on the robotaxi expansion. But do you think that's going to happen in the next couple of years? SpaceX and Tesla merging?
What I'm hearing through the grapevine is that this is something that Elon wants to do.
Yeah.
I've kind of gone on record saying I'd prefer that they don't. I'd prefer that they not distract themselves with having to convince Tesla shareholders that merging with SpaceX is a good deal. I think it's going to create a lot of effort. And as an investment person, I would rather have the ability to allocate to two different companies.
Yep.
I also think from a political risk standpoint that having two separate companies insulates Elon a bit more. That if the government goes after Tesla, then he's still got SpaceX, which,
Yep.
by the way, is important for the government because of all kinds of defense contracts and different things. So the government needs to be careful with Elon because they can't destroy Tesla and expect them to continue to serve
Or
them,
defend the country.
defend the country, right? So a lot
Yeah.
of people worry about what happens when the Democrats get in power again. They're going to go after
Mm.
Tesla and destroy it. And it's
Mm.
like, well, no, Elon's a pretty critical person to the defense of the United States
Yeah.
with his rocket company and also with AI now too. So I would prefer to have two separate companies, but I'm hearing that Elon wants to have one large entity.
Eventually,
And
sort of thing, in a couple of years'
if that's
time, maybe.
if that's what he wants, then I think that's what will likely happen. I have some concerns about that, but I can certainly see the economic benefits of doing that. I would just prefer to have two different companies to invest in.
Also, from the monopoly sort of standpoint, like it becomes a bit of a concern with that much concentrated power into one
Yeah.
company, you know?
You're giving all kinds of political reasons to go after him in that case, and that's what I worry
Exactly.
about.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that'll be interesting. So that's something to keep in mind as a Tesla investor. Do you see that as a negative for Tesla right now, suppressing the valuations going up, or not at the moment?
I'm not really too worried about it. I mean, if SpaceX goes public on its own and just stays a separate company, there are certainly a good slug of Tesla investors, I think, that'll sell some Tesla shares to buy SpaceX.
Yeah,
So that could be a little bit of a downdraft. I think that's highly temporary because Tesla's on the upswing with robotaxi and then with the humanoid robots close behind.
Mm.
But they've got a couple of really nice growth businesses coming in the next couple of years.
I think they'll be,
SpaceX,
yeah, selling something else in mind SpaceX.
yeah,
Probably.
SpaceX certainly has Starlink, which is amazing. They're adding 1 million subscribers every month, it seems. And of course, the whole AI data center opportunity for SpaceX is enormous. Not to mention the launch business as Starship becomes operational, the launch cost comes down. It's going to cause an explosion of things that we put in space.
Wow.
And it won't just be Starlinks, it'll be AI data centers and it'll be all kinds of other stuff. We'll start making pharmaceuticals in space. We'll start doing all kinds of things in
Wow.
space now that become economical with Starship.
Wow. That's
If you
crazy.
if you drive down the launch costs by a factor of 10, you create a massive opportunity. The way I think about space is it's kind of like we're discovering a new continent.
Hmm.
We now have the ships to get across the ocean to discover a new continent and do things in that continent. And space is the ultimate one because of the enormity with it,
Hmm.
right? If you're discovering North America or Australia, New Zealand, you're constrained by the size of those entities. With space, we have no such constraint, really.
Yeah, and with
So
data
the
centers up there, you've got solar power, on
yeah,
tap 24/7. You've got automatic cooling. You don't have the problems with, so if you can get the stuff up there, and then you've got the data centers and running into trouble with the data center build outs. There's a lot of cancellations in data center build outs.
yeah.
People complaining about the environmental impact in their area and so on and so forth. So whether he can actually, solve all the technological problems of it, I don't know, because, like, I don't know, radiation and things like that are going to affect it. But I'm sure if anybody can do it, it'll be Elon and his team.
Hmm.
So, never bet against him. It might take a little bit
The
longer than he thinks, but yeah,
Yeah, no, it'll definitely take longer. I think that they're certainly very capable of figuring all these things out.
yeah.
AI data centers, I believe, in the United States already consumes about 7% of our total electricity
Wow.
generation.
Hmm.
So we're going to have an imperative if we want to materially expand that. We have an imperative to put it up in space and free up that capacity for other things.
Yep.
I also believe that over the long term, we'll probably put most of our dirty manufacturing in space
Mm.
and leave the earth, cleaner and more pristine. And that's a nice long-term opportunity for every manufacturing business.
Wow.
The reason you want to do that is again because the electricity, the energy costs in space are going to be so much less. So if you have a very energy intensive operation, ultimately, I think it'll be cheaper to do that in space for almost everything.
Wow. And the pharmaceuticals, is that because of the low gravity situation up there?
Yeah, I don't have a full appreciation for that, but it's my understanding that a lot of drugs would be better produced in that kind of environment. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a little bit of interviewed Dr. David Furman from the Buck Institute and Stanford University, and they have he works on there with the astronauts trying to go into outer space and protect them from aging because you age
Hmm.
like what was it 10 times faster or something up there, some huge number.
Yeah.
And they do lots of studies in low gravity where they have organoids sort of suspended in a zero gravity environment, and they can test a lot more interventions on these little mini brains and mini livers and things with in that environment. So when you said that, I wondered if that would be the reason why, because of that low gravity environment, that it has particular properties that we can't sort of simulate on a bigger scale here on Earth. They do it in these miniature little things, but they might be able to do bigger experiments beyond my pay grade. But I can
Yeah, it's not something
imagine.
that I've looked at in detail yet, but
Yeah,
it's my understanding that there's all kinds of manufacturing processes that would benefit from being
right.
done in space. Yeah.
Mm.
Um,
Well, gosh, we've covered everything from, space to to Bitcoin and AI to the changes that are coming. Soon, thank you for your brilliance today. And on brilliance, you have brilliant advice. If anybody is in America and wants financial advice, please check out brilliantadvice.net. Is the correct website? Is that right? It is,
yeah,
yeah.
that's correct. And I wish that I could work with people from New Zealand and Australia. I'd love to be able to. Unfortunately, the regulations that we operate under preclude us unless the funds are in the United States in a U.S. institution.
Right.
In that case, we can work with clients that are outside the country. But if that's not the case, then we're not able to,
No, but in any
unfortunately.
case, everybody follow Cern on X, and you have your own YouTube channel now, which is also brilliant with the clips that you're often on with Herbert Ong, Brighter with Herbert. That's absolutely brilliant. So any other places that people can follow you in your work?
No,
Just
that's really it. X is really the best place to follow me, and it's just at Cern Basher. I would just mention that my last video with Herbert, I think a lot of people will find interesting. We looked at the economics of an individual owning a robotaxi or a cybercab,
yeah. We didn't even
and
get there.
how very interesting that was, and from an economic opportunity perspective. Um, a lot of people are very interested, I think, and particularly since a lot of people are worried about losing their job to AI, how can they replace their income source? This could be one interesting way to do it is to own yourself a cybercab or two or three or a small fleet
Wow.
and the income potential of that. So we explored that on the last show with Herbert.
And do you think that's going to be available like worldwide? Like, like would we be able to do that in New Zealand? Or
I
is it
hope
going to be
so
America
eventually.
only, sort
No,
of a
I hope it's a global thing. Um,
wow.
and I believe it's Elon's intent to make it global. The cybercab, I believe, would be a global vehicle. In fact, the interesting thing about the cybercab, it's the first ever automobile that rolls off the production line that's ready from the start for both left-hand drive and right-hand drive roads
Because they've got no
because it
steering
has no
wheel.
steering wheel.
And they've got some limitations on the amount of those types of things in America, eh? So probably there's regulations here and things that we haven't got at all, I should imagine. But
Well, and that's an opportunity again for other countries is to say, hey, let's bring this technology in. We don't have the limitations, operate in
yeah.
our country and invite this, and then you can be the global leader in something,
Oh gosh, I hope people are listening to this.
right? And this is the opportunity with robotaxi. This is the opportunity with the humanoid robots as well.
Yeah.
This really is a moment where some forward-thinking leaders and governments have an opportunity to leapfrog every other nation,
Yeah.
right? This is a moment here right now to do that.
And we're a small country that could do that if because the bigger the country sometimes the more difficult that is, but we would have the
Yep.
opportunity. So yeah, let's hope some powers that be are listening to this interview and want to let's be tech forward because hiding under the covers isn't going to fix us.
No.
So embrace it, and that's certainly what I'm in my business. It was like I don't want AI, I don't want AI, and then it was like I'm going full AI because I have to.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm amazed. I'm absolutely gobsmacked at my abilities with AI compared to my abilities prior. Just
And some
insane.
of these things that you're using too have just been developed, and so that they're the worst they're ever going to be right now.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm finding
Right?
that as
This whole
well.
OpenClaw situation is kind of a mess, but it's amazing what it can do
Yep.
already, and it's
Yep.
only going to improve, and it's probably going to improve at an accelerating rate.
Yep. That's why I'm doing it and learning it and tripping over and having problems, but fighting my
Yeah.
way through wrestling with the computer every day because
Right.
I have to be in on the ground floor.
Fantastic.
Oh, Cern, thank you for your time today, my friend. Absolutely epic.
My pleasure, Lisa. Thank you.